Is it worth upgrading from the Fanatec CSL DD to the Clubsport DD? Short answer, yeah. Long answer, yes, but don't forget to factor in any added expense of upgrading your QR1 equipped wheels to QR2. Don't sell on your existing CSL DD until the Clubsport DD is in your hands and working. Deliveries could take longer than you think. Don't give too much attention to the so-called full force feature, because even now, more than 6 months on, it's still not implemented into any games, and even when it is, it could still fall flat. So don't put too much weight into full force yet. Don't count on quick and efficient customer service if you have an issue. It's always been slow, but especially so recently. Having said all that, you will still deeply enjoy the upgrade, the step up from 8 Newton meters to 12 Newton meters. It really is the level at which sim racing becomes really lively. You will definitely feel the difference and you will never be going back. So in this video, I'm going to try and articulate the stuff that you should know about before you make that upgrade. Watch the entire video through first before making the upgrade or making any decisions, but I'll try and touch on everything I think you should know before you do that. If you do decide to go through an upgrade though, using the Fanatec affiliate links in the description obviously helps this channel at no added cost to you. If you don't do it for me, do it for another creator that has helped you out in the past. But thank you to those who have done so in the past, I really appreciate it. If you've been using your Fanatec CSL DD for a while, you'll remember how you felt when you first used it. What an awesome little power cube it was and is. But if you're like I was, after a while you just kind of start to get used to it, your skills expand to fit the container that you're in, and you start to yearn for a little bit more fight in the mid corners, a little bit more punch over the rough stuff, just more of everything. This is normal because the 8 Newton meters upper limit of the CSL DD is excellent, but you just get a feeling there's more there. You get a feeling that it's just one slice short of a full pizza. You know there's more to be had. If that sounds like you, then the Clubsport DD is the most natural step up for you. Just an increase in power without doing away with the ecosystem that you may already be invested in. Its 12 Newton meters resides in that sweet spot, which in my opinion gives all the power that you're really going to need, but you're not yet spending 4 figures on your wheelbase. I also said the same thing of the Moser R12 and the Fanatec La Prima as well. 12 Newton meters is just perfect. To go any higher than that is just putting icing on the cake, but if you stick with 12, you still got the full cake. If back in the day you stepped up to the CSL DD from something like a Logitech G29, then don't expect a similar feeling and massive step up this time around. The jump up to the Clubsport DD is not going to blow your mind and rewrite everything you thought you knew in quite the same way. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be great, but do temper your expectations in that regard. Going from something like a Logitech G29 or T150 to a CSL DD is like going from a straw house to a brick one. But going from a CSL DD to a Clubsport DD is like putting an extension on it. First things first, the Clubsport DD is basically just a lengthened CSL DD in terms of form factor. So the mounting points that you're already using will be the same. It's a really simple swap in, swap out. You probably won't even have to adjust your wheel deck in any way. The snout of the Clubsport DD is shorter than a CSL DD, but the added length and room you've got to mount it on the rails will probably compensate for that. So you probably won't even have to change anything about your cockpit to just get on and go. If you have a wheel with the QR1 style quick release on it, you're going to need to convert it to QR2 in order for it to be able to connect to your Clubsport DD. So you're going to have to buy a QR2 quick release upgrade in order to do this, but only the standard and pro will allow you to use the full torque of the Clubsport DD. The QR2 Lite won't allow that. It will limit it to 8 Newton meters. So make sure you avoid the QR2 Lite for your Clubsport DD. It's not the thing that's meant to go with it. However, the QR2 is leagues better than the QR1 system, so it's an annoying additional expense, but at least it's not completely pointless. There is an actual objective to it. It's not just planned obsolescence. It actually does improve the system in quite a major way. Sometimes Fanatec has got some pretty decent bundles going on that actually include the QR stuff that you would need in a way that's a lot more efficient pound for pound. As I record this, the Clubsport DD F1 Esports V2 bundle includes the Clubsport DD, the QR2 Pro and Formula wheel, all for just €100 more than the Clubsport DD base is on its own individually. The price may ultimately be higher overall, but the actual efficiency of the money you're spending is way higher with that bundle than it is to buy the base on its own and a QR2 on its own and such sort, you would end up spending way more money doing it that way. So keep an eye out for those kind of bundles. You might get everything you need with much better value for money involved. And by the way, the wheel that you've seen in most of the clips here is a custom wheel. That's the QR2 with a podium hub, with a Turn R320 rim and a Turn BP2 Button Plate. I love that wheel. Such a good wheel. Once you've got things mapped up and ready to go, all connected up, and you've loaded up your simulation of choice, the fun can begin. And what you'll experience first as you roll out of the pits and go through those first couple of corners is you'll notice that your car seems to have gotten a lot angrier, your tyres seem to be much grippier and heavier, and your sense of control is a lot more hard-earned. I mean, this all sounds like a bad thing, but trust me, that step up from 8 Newton meters to 12, it's not one that you ever want to go back to once you've gotten used to it. Stepping up from a CSL DD to a Clubsport DD is like walking a Spaniel one day and then a German Shepherd the next. However, unlike in dog walking, the added strength and power of a Clubsport DD will only add to the fun and experience. Once you grow into that extra power and the added muscle engagement becomes woven into your natural senses, you'll feel way more connected to the car than ever before. It's always fun to feel the strain of the car in the mid-corners as if the whole thing's under huge tension and could snap at any time. That's the sort of thing that makes sim racing fun, even though you're physically travelling at exactly 0 miles an hour. You get lots of useful feedback with the CSL DD that you can use to drive well, but with the Clubsport DD you start to step into proper immersion and also simulated feelings of danger. Or at least that's how I felt. Each step up the ladder is about adding performance, but it's at 12 Newton meters where I believe the full experience begins to show. There are times and situations where you would legitimately want more power, but in terms of best performance per pound spent, if I was putting a rig together, it would have a 12 Newton meter wheelbase on it. Generally speaking, the end product of a Clubsport DD, its feedback and experience, is really nice, and the QR2 resolves so many problems with the QR1. It is categorically an upgrade to the CSL DD in almost every way. There's no doubt in my mind that my consistency and race pace does improve on a 12 Newton meter base over an 8 Newton meter base, and I'm pretty sure that yours will too. Your single lap pace won't change because the CSL DD is already really good for that. The information you get allows you to be fast. But it's over sustained periods of time that the 12 Newton meter benefit really shows for me. And I just enjoy spending time wrestling the car. It's just more fun that way. So that's all the good stuff, but now we really come to the things that you ought to know before you make the upgrade. This is a segment I often do in hardware reviews that basically focuses on what are the reasons not to buy? What are the current reasons that might have you thinking twice about spending the money? Well, there are definitely a few, but if you're an existing Fanatec customer, then some of these reasons might not come at any surprise to you. But if it's been a year or two since you last ordered, then it's definitely still worth listening to this. The biggest issues facing people that buy Fanatec equipment are just Fanatec themselves. They're slower than most when it comes to customer service, and also shipping is also slower than it used to be, I am sure of it. At least based on the 3 orders that I've made personally in the last year. I recently placed an order to the UK. It took 10 business days for the order to actually leave Fanatec's warehouse in the EU, and then it took a further 7 days for UPS, about 7 business days, for UPS to get the order from Fanatec to my door. So we're talking 17 business days from order to receipt. Waiting a calendar month for your order to arrive when you could get some other brand from some regional domestic distributor the next day is something you've got to weigh up. And it's not that bad for everybody. Some people get deliveries in days, but it's also worse for some. It seems to be somewhat random. It varies from region to region, case by case. I'd imagine that the extra UK paperwork that they have to do to send it to me in the UK also doesn't help matters. But long story short, if you place an order with Fanatec, do not be watching out the window the next day for a delivery truck. It's not happening. It's going to be a while. The best and most honest resource about what delivery times are like now are the people themselves that are ordering stuff. So let people know in the comments when and where you ordered and when you received. Fanatec's customer service department is also treacle powered. It always has been, but it's been particularly bad as of late. By their own admission, they're talking weeks between ticket responses. That's bad. Evidence of this can be seen everywhere you turn on social media because people are waiting for responses from the tickets. Where they're going to turn? They're going to turn to your Reddits, your Facebooks, your Instagrams, and there were plenty of people burnt by Fanatec's fumbling of Black Friday 2023, and lots of people are angry about that, and justifiably so. It was a big disaster on the customer services and delivery front, and they've been trying to recover from it since. This more than anything is the biggest source of hesitation when I'm trying to weigh up whether a Fanatec purchase is worth it for those that ask. Prior warning of the long response times when it comes to customer tickets can help reduce the annoyance if it happens to you, but if you're out of action and you can't sim race and you're waiting weeks and weeks for responses to your support tickets, every day that goes by just adds to the displeasure. Fanatec says they're working on it, but the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding's the same it's been for ages. And this brings me neatly onto my own warranty experience with Fanatec earlier this year, back in January, with this very wheelbase. The Clubsport DD that I received back then had a minor quirk known as coil whine. Not all Clubsport DD bases have this. Most people report that they're dead silent, as they should be. But I was one of the unlucky ones with coil whine, and there are numerous reports of people with exactly the same issue. The coil whine basically manifests itself as like an electrical whistling noise, like having a tiny air leak in a plane and there's air just sort of whistling past it. It's quite an annoying noise when the room is quiet and there's nothing happening. If you ain't got your headphones on and you're not racing, you can hear that. I would turn the bass off as soon as I was done racing. When I'm working on a desk in the other side of the room, I would have it off because the noise would be distracting. Not annoying enough to be a deal breaker, but annoying enough to want a replacement if one is available to me. So I put a ticket in and started an RMA process for it, which Fanatec accepted. So I sent my wheelbase in and received one back. That happened in about a month from start to finish, but I received my replacement Clubsport DD wheelbase, completely new unit, different serial number, everything like that, and it had the same problem. So it's either terrible luck on my part, a bad batch, or both. And for context, Moser bases do also have coil whine, but it's a completely different noise. It's more like a background hiss rather than a annoying little sort of like balloon leaking air kind of noise. The hottest topic surrounding Fanatec at this very moment, at least, is the power struggle happening behind the scenes at the head of the company. There are a lot of sensational hot takes surrounding this topic, and the story is interesting, I'll give it that. Fanatec's financial reporting painted a troubled picture. The CEO of 25 years, Thomas Jakemeyer, was demoted from his position. Corsair is looking to buy Fanatec like they did with Elgato. I do personally believe that Fanatec isn't going anywhere though, despite all of this. I do believe that they're going to get through this pretty dark patch in their history, but ultimately I don't think it's really going to tangibly affect anybody that isn't closely following the mad soap opera that's going on behind the scenes. If you're just average guy, goes onto the site, buys some stuff, wonders why it took a month to arrive, and then that's it, you never even think about it again. Having said that, I did think that Google was as big as it was ever going to be back in 2011. And I also said that Tesla wasn't going anywhere back in 2010. So maybe my crystal ball is a bit scuffed. Sometimes I do feel that my perception skills are about as sharp as a block of butter and I couldn't predict my way out of a paper bag. Either way, if you're watching this video months or years after release, this part will either make me look like an oracle or a fool. Feel free to comment accordingly, I can take it. And finally, Full Force, a feature which was much touted in the marketing for the product, but as of yet, over 6 months after the product was released, it's still not implemented in any games. You can't actually use it. I accept that this statement, like some others that may have been listed in the negatives, could soon be outdated. Maybe they'll unleash Full Force tomorrow and this will be completely obsolete. I would love for that to happen. But for a feature sold to us in November and still not available to use 6 months later, that's kind of silly. It's a feature with no way to use it yet. So that's all the reasons you might not buy. And usually there are 1 or 2 reasons that I highlight in my hardware reviews, but the Clubsport DD, much like other Fanatec products, the issues are not centered around the product itself. The product itself is actually pretty good. It's just the company surrounding it that's just constantly mired in one issue after another. It's still an awesome upgrade for sure. It's one that I would want to make. 8 to 12 Newton meters is a big step up, a different experience, and just all round better. But if after listening to all of those negatives, you don't really like the sound of that, your only alternative then is to just sell off all your Fanatec kit and go with another company. If that is something you'd actually rather do, then personally my soft spot lies with the Acertec SimSports La Prima. Brilliant wheelbase, and the company actually seems to be doing a pretty solid job in my eyes. Between the Moser R12, Clubsport DD, and La Prima, it would be the La Prima that I would be most confident spending the money on. That's the one I would go for if I was starting from scratch today. But you're not starting from scratch, you've already got your Fanatec kit. So the direct upgrade may still make a lot more sense to you than to switch to another brand entirely and sell off all your kit. That's a lot of hassle. You should only really seriously consider doing that if it makes sense for you and you want to do it. All things considered, Fanatec does sell stuff by the truckload. They're still a massive player. We never hear about the folks that receive their stuff in decent time and they never have issues with them. We never hear about those things, but we do hear about all the bad ones. And you have to take those bad ones into consideration. Folks that have waited far too long for their stuff to be delivered, folks that have waited far too long for their warranty cases to be looked at, folks that have genuinely had bad experiences that basically lose Fanatec, those customers, for life. So there we go, a little primer of what you should expect if you do make the upgrade to the Clubsport DD, and also some things that you should know before you do. It is a big step up for sure, it's worth the jump. The experience from 8 to 12 Newton meters is a completely different one. It's not mind-blowingly different, but it is different enough for me to way prefer a 12 Newton meter base over an 8 Newton meter base. And you've got to weigh up that one big important pro against the numerous ambient cons that Fanatec seem to be surrounded by right now. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you agree or disagree with any of the points or any questions you might have. Stick them down in the comments and I'll try my best to answer. If you do go on to buy anything from Fanatec, then using the affiliate links in the description helps this channel directly, so thank you for doing that if you do. And you'll also find other brands and discounts down in the description as well that you might find useful. Leaving a like on this video and subscribing is also a super generous thing to do, so thank you for that. And cheers again.